Welcome to my study today. We're going to look at direct and indirect or reported speech. The two verbs to say and to tell, which I know cause a lot of problems. We'll listen to a dialogue and then we'll write that down as reported speech. And I'll give you a very good tip so that you always get your reported speech verbs in the correct tenses. And there's an exercise to practice afterwards. So, let's get started. This lady says, I'm learning French. And to write that down as direct speech, we use say. I'm learning French, she said. That's how you would see it written in a book. Of course, we use other words to make it more interesting, like she replied, cried, whispered, and agreed. But we never write she told. You have to write I'm learning French, she said, or an equivalent word. And if we're going to write that as indirect speech or reported speech, first thing we do, we change the pronoun from I to she. She says she is learning French. She said she was learning French. I have two ways to do that, and don't worry too much about the tenses at the moment. I'll talk about those later. And notice I cannot say she said me she is learning French. Students make that as a very common mistake. I think you can see right away the difference when we use tell for reported speech. She tells me she is learning French. She told me she was learning French. The verb is followed by a direct object, which is usually a personal pronoun. You cannot simply say she told she is learning French. A good way to remember how to use say is that we say something to somebody. Go away, I mean it. We don't know who he's talking to, but we can report that in general terms as he always says what he means. We can use reported speech more directly, as in this case. Colin said sorry. I'm actually saying what Colin said. And I can say that to another person like this. Colin said to me he was sorry. Now be careful here. We must have the two. You cannot say Colin said me. If an indirect object is given, two must be used. Colin said to me he was sorry. To tell has the meaning of to narrate or to explain, and it's quite often used in fixed expressions like this: to tell a lie, to tell a story, to tell the time. You cannot replace it with say or said in these phrases. Tell normally has to be followed by a personal direct object. We make it clear who we tell. He told me the answer. And we use it quite often in statements and commands like this. You eat too many sweets. Mummy told me I eat too many sweets. Here's a special note for reported commands. You must leave is a command, and if we report that and use said, said is not followed by an infinitive. He said the man should leave. But if you use tell, told is followed by an infinitive. He told the man to leave. Now here's John and Mary speaking together, and afterwards we'll write down what they said. What are you reading, Mary?
A book.
Is it a good book?
Yes, a very good book.
What sort of book is it?
A very good textbook.
Tell me some more about it.
It's a very good school textbook.
Let's write down in indirect speech what they just said. The verbs which concern us here are the present and present continuous, which are the spoken verbs, which we shall report in the simple past and the past continuous tenses. You notice the tense moves back 1 tense, and we call this a back shift. Sometimes it can move more than 1 tense, but here we're just concerned with 1 back shift. On the left is what they actually said, and on the right is how we're going to report it. John asked Mary what she was reading. Mary said it was a book. He asked if it was a good book. She told him it was a very good book. He asked her what sort of book it was. She said it was a very good textbook. John told Mary to tell him more about it. She said it's a very good school textbook. Note 1. John uses an imperative tell me. The reporting verb told is a command and now requires an infinitive to tell him. Note 2. Mary says it's a very good school textbook. This information remains true in reported speech, so the tense stays the same. She says it's a very good book. However, it is possible to say Mary said it was a very good book. Here's my useful tip to make sure you always get your tenses in reported speech correct. When the reporting verb is in the present, present perfect or future tenses, you can leave the reported speech in the same tense as spoken by the person. Here's an example. Remember though, you have to change the pronouns sometimes. Here's John. He says, I am very sad. So we change I am to he is for reported speech. We have the 3 verb tenses. John says present. John has just told me present perfect. John will tell you future. So I can leave the reported speech in the same tense as John actually spoke. Changing the pronoun, of course. He is very sad. Now here are some exercises for you to practice exactly that. Practice reporting the speech in the same tense as spoken, as in the example. I can come next week. He says, you have to start the sentence with that. He says he can come next week. But be careful with the pronoun changes. Pause the video and practice the tenses. The answers follow. Pause the video and check through your answers. Next time, we shall have a look at some more reported speech. Some of the other things you have to change as well as the pronouns. So, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe below, and I'll see you next time. Bye.